Pokemon was in a weird spot in the early 2000s. Gen 1 and 2 were the height of Poke-Mania, everyone knows that. But Ruby and Sapphire weren't universally received well at the time compared to the previous games. A lot of this had to do with the axing in most of Gen 1 and 2's Pokemon, and that more or less you were stuck with Pokemon native to the Hoenn region, with no way of transferring Pokemon from the previous games into this one. In the modern day, how do Ruby, Sapphire and later Emerald fare? Or is the lack of old favourites a sign for things to come for the quality of the game, as people would say regarding certain later titles many years later? For this video, I'll start off with Sapphire as my game of choice, as that was the one I had when I was young, and I'll move on to Emerald version when appropriate. And like in the previous video, I'll be playing a Nuzlocke challenge during the course of the video. If you want to know what a Nuzlocke challenge is, refer to the previous videos for that, where I do explain it. The game starts off in a really different way this time around, and that's something that I really enjoy. We're in the back of a moving truck, having just moved to Little Root Town, and by extension the Hoenn Region where the games take place in. Oh, and in a first for the franchise, we have a dad this time. That feels really weird to say, but it's true. He's the reason why the family's moved, as he's the gym leader of the nearby Petalburg city. The player is then prompted to go next door and introduce themselves to the family of your dad's friend's family. Professor Birch's child, Brendan if the player is a girl, and May if the player is a boy, serves as our rival for the game. Going into a nearby route, the professor is attacked by a wild Pokemon, and we choose a starter from his bag to save him. This is a really fun setup to me, and makes a lot of sense on why he would let you keep the Pokemon after this, since he's seen your capability firsthand. This is a really solid set of starters. I pretty much like them all equally for different reasons. Trico is the grass type, Torchic is the fire type, and Mudkip is the water type. And I'm gonna go about this the way I do when I usually go back to these games, picking the starter based on the cartridge colour, so since I'm playing Sapphire, I went with Mudkip. Also completely unrelated, but this is a fun fact. When I was really young, I was in a shop once with my mum, and there was a copy of Pokemon Ruby on display, and she asked if I wanted it, and this was like really rare. My mum didn't usually be like, oh, you know, do you want a game? But on this occasion she saw it and was like, oh, you like Pokemon, do you want me to get that for you? And I said no, because I legitimately misread it and thought that the game was called Pokemon Rugby, and I was like, no, I don't like sports, I don't want to see Pikachu playing rugby, no thank you. And she didn't say anything, but she probably gave me a funny look, but I think she didn't question it, so she didn't have to buy a game when I've said no, I don't want it because I don't like rugby. I eventually got it many years later, but these games always make me think of that story. Anyways, like I said before, Birch lets us keep the Mudkip, which I name Otto, but the Nuzlocke won't actually begin until I can get some Pokeballs. To keep things fair, if I come across random encounters at this point, I will fight them, but I'm not going out of my way to grind or anything to ruin the challenge of the early game. At the top of Route 103, we get our rival battle, and after that point we can finally begin the Nuzlocke now that we've been given Pokeballs. The first Pokemon caught was a Zigzagoon, which kind of serves as the rodent equivalent, like you got Rattata, in Gen 2 was Sentry, and now in this one it's Zigzagoon, which I named Ziggy, as well as a Poochyena, the Pokemon that Birch was attacked by earlier, which I named Poochie, and he immediately died in the first trainer battle. Ah well, at least I managed to replace him quickly with a Wurmple I named Wiggler. One thing that really stands out to me here is how quickly it gets you right into the action, and being able to hear the cries of the Pokemon available in each route really adds to bringing you into this world. This generation introduced a whole ton of new features, which I'll explain when coming across them, so let's start off with berries. These can do various things, from healing to curing status ailments, and you can also plant them and grow more berries, but I'm gonna be honest, I don't really care about that. I just kind of pick the berries that I need and go and don't plant any new ones. At any rate, we're at Petalburg, where your dad works. We go to visit him and we come across Wally, an ill boy who wants to become a Pokemon trainer. He kind of serves as a secondary rival in the game, and he's also the obligatory catching tutorial. Now in context, this does make sense to be fair, since you're with him and teaching him how to catch a Pokemon. but on the other hand, there's like a 99.9% chance the player is well aware of how to catch Pokemon by now. Even if they haven't played the previous titles, this just feels really redundant. In the nearby Petalburg Woods, we come across the villain teams of the game, Team Aqua and Sapphire and Team Magma and Ruby. You do meet both teams in all versions, but you never fight the other team in these games. However, in Emerald you do go up against both, which makes a lot more sense to me. To get some more of the new features out the way, held items are something that you can give to a Pokemon to hold on to, and they can offer different effects depending on the item, adding another bit of strategy, and so do abilities, which give Pokemon a special trait, and that could have something to do with their stats or attacks, or also be helpful outside of battles. On the way to Rustboro City, we get our first double battle, and they're exactly as it sounds. Instead of a one-on-one battle, there's two-on-two, and it's a really fun change of pace, but in my opinion, it's woefully underutilized, specifically in Ruby and Sapphire versions. This is something that is improved on a lot more in Emerald though. But to check in on the team, by the time I was about to face the first gym leader, my party was Otto the Mudkip, Ziggy, Wiggler, who is now a Beautifly, Willy the Wingull, Pointerella the Silcoon, and Chumbo the Whismer. Roxanne is a rock-type gym leader, again, and she didn't really stand any chance of winning between Otto and Willy. After beating her, Team Aqua is causing trouble again, now harassing an old man and stealing his Wingull, so we get it back for him. For saving it, the old man gives us a ride to Dooford Town where the second gym lies. Broly is the fighting-type leader, and he completely wiped me. Since it was so early, I only had 6 Pokemon, and his matchup just completely fucked me up, ending the Nuzlocke run. But we've got to beat the game in full to look at it properly, so I'll now be switching over to Pokemon Emerald and continuing the Nuzlocke until beating the Pokemon League. Alright, so I'm just going to pick up from where we left off in Dooford, except this time I've actually managed to beat the second gym. Amazing work, I know. So at this point my team is Ringo the Trico. Like I said, I'm picking based on the cartridge colour, so Emerald's green, I go with the grass type, so I pick Trico this time. Stardust the Zigzagoon, Burple the Dustox, Bloople the Marill, Baddington the Poochyena, and Rumpel the Beautifly. Since Broly was beat, with no casualties I may add, big difference compared to last time, the HM Flash is now active, meaning we can do what was asked of us by the Devoncorp president, delivering a letter to his son, Stephen, who is in the nearby Granite Cave studying. After that little errand we can go to Slateport, which is where the first death in the run occurs. Baddington died on the beach just before reaching the city, so instead I put Fodlan the Zubat onto the team to confront Team Aqua, who are just fucking adoring this museum apparently. We meet their leader Archie for the first time, who explains the group are dedicated to expanding the sea, and gives us some friendly advice to stay out of their way, which we'll of course be ignoring. A fun little curiosity is the Trickmaster House, where he tasks you in solving numerous puzzles and a few battles for some little rewards. And we get our next battle with our rival, May, and I remember this battle being way harder when I was a kid. Don't get me wrong, it was still pretty tense. I did end up losing Fodlan and Burple the Dustox, which is a shame, don't get me wrong, but I was thinking this was going to be a lot more challenging. We then get to Moorville, and Wally is just stood outside the gym. He pleads with us to battle him with just one Ralts. He does go down pretty easily, but it seems to give him the motivation to go out and get stronger, which is nice. There's a few good things to do nearby before going to the gym. First is getting a bike, which we can choose between the Acro bike, which does tricks, and the Mach bike, which goes really fast, as well as the daycare. Now, I want to talk about the placement of the daycare here, because it's pretty damn clever. There's a massive stretch of just straight road, meaning that if you use the daycare to get eggs, it's really easy just to ride along this road to hatch the egg, and the Pokemon in the daycare will be leveling up all the while too. It's just a clever placement there, and I thought it was really well thought out and well done. In Verdant Turf, we get to speak more to Wally's relatives, explaining that he suffers from some sort of illness, and that this is the first time he's really been passionate about something, which is a really nice little piece of furthering his character. Watson is the gym leader of Morville who specialises in electricity. I managed to beat him, but thanks to his Magneton and me not having anything super effective to hit it with, the fight dragged on so much. But on the plus side, Stardust evolved into a I've never had to say this word out loud. Linoon, and newcomer Scrumble the Whismer evolved into Loudred in the same battle too. That's pretty mental. Good news! Bluebell evolved into an Azumarill. Bad news! Scrimbo just died. However, since I didn't catch a Pokemon in the Rusbro Tunnel, I caught a new Whismer, which I named Tumbo. And I just connected the way from Rusbro to Verdanturf while I was at it, uniting a man and his girlfriend in the process. Just outside of Morville, there's a family of 4 that you have to fight without breaks in between, each family member getting progressively stronger than the last, which is a neat little scenario that I really enjoy. It's kinda like a precursor to the Elite Four in a sense. I remember there used to be an old theory that this is Steven's family, since they say their son is the strongest and he's probably at the Pokemon League by now. But I'm pretty sure that their son is just an ace trainer that you meet on Victory Road, as it was confirmed in the remakes that Steven's dad is the Devoncourt president, if I recall correctly. Upon trying to get to the top of the summit, Team Magma, the land-loving, or as Team Aqua would call them, landlubbers, counterpart of them, are blocking the way, so we have no choice to take the long way through the fiery path and into Followborough Town. And the ashy aesthetic of the area is so lovely. I think it's just really pretty in this sprite art. Unfortunately, on the way to the town, my Tentrafu the Tentacool died, so I replaced it with a Coughing I caught earlier that I named Chi. Lynette also lives in this town. Who's Lynette? She made the PC system in Hoenn, obviously. And she does give you a Lotad doll for talking to her. Dolls are used in secret bases, which can be opened up in trees and certain holes in walls if you use the move Secret Power, and you can decorate them as your own secret base. This is something that's specific to the Hoenn region, and this only makes a return in the Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire remakes. In Meteor Falls, we fight off some Team Magma grunts who have taken a scientist hostage over a piece of meteorite he found. Team Aqua also appear along with Archie, who lets us know that Team Magma's leader and more of their grunts are up on Mount Chimney, with the intention of making the volcano erupt. So of course that's the next destination, because believe it or not, trying to use an active volcano to expand the landmass is just a little bit psychotic. Maxie. Yeah, Team Magma leader Maxie, calling you out. Cancelled cause you killed my fucking Grovyle. Ringo is dead because of you, ya bastard. Well, at least at the nearby Jagged Pass, it allows me to get a new team member before arriving in Lava Ridge Town, which does soften the blow a little bit, I guess. I miss Ringo. I miss him a lot. But I got a Spoink. I called him Crisp, like, cause he's a pig. Crisp. P. Bacon. I miss Ringo. Lava Ridge is a very charming little town. It has a rustic feeling to it that I really like, and it even has a nice hot spring, and you can get a Pokemon egg from one of the old ladies outside the Pokemon Center next to the hot spring. The gym leader Flannery is also very endearing as a character. She's clearly trying to find her footing as the fire-type gym leader. She also admits her part of her losing is down to her trying to be something that she's not, which is confusing her Pokemon. It goes to show how close the bond between trainers and Pokemon are and how important they are, and helps flesh out Flannery as a character a bit more, since not a lot of gym leaders get any sort of character arc. May meets us outside and she advises us to go back to Petalburg to challenge our father, but instead I'm first going to go to the desert to fight some more trainers, get some more Pokemon and pick up a fossil. There's the root fossil, which is Lily, and the claw fossil, which turns into Anorith. I personally much prefer Anorith, so I went with the claw fossil. Once that's out the way, it's back to Petalburg to take on Dad's gym. Mechanically, this is probably my favourite gym in the whole game. All of the trainers use normal types, but all the battles mainly revolve around specific stats or battle tactics, such as there being an accuracy room, defense room, attack room, etc., which I think is super fucking inventive, and I'm really surprised that this has never been shown in a game again. Like, how cool would it be for, say, for example, the last gym to be around specific battle styles or team compositions? I think that would be, instead of a type, I think that would be cool. Once we get the 5th gym badge, Surf is now usable, which opens a lot more of the world up. There's nothing that can really be done on this side of Hoenn, so it's time to make our way back to Morville from Oldale Town and head to the right from there. Before we can continue though, Watson asks us for a favour, to shut down the generator in New Morville since it's becoming unsafe. The place has a lot of Voltorb, so I was terrified one of them using self-destruct and taking out a member of my team was going to happen. But luckily, it didn't at all, and no Pokemon were lost during New Morville, which, thankfully, I even managed to get a Voltorb of my own that I named Flush. Now that we did that favour for Watson, it's time to move on to the right like I said before. Once we're on the new area, Steven ambushes the player and just kind of talks at them. He doesn't give anything or do anything like significant, he just kind of talks about Pokemon and fucks off. Thanks mate, good talk. Moving upwards from here, we come across the Weather Institute, which Team Aqua have taken over, and they don't plan on going anywhere anytime soon. Only until the player takes on the Grunts and their admin Shelly, that we meet in the Institute for the first time. After beating them in a battle, they run off after hearing reports of Team Magma in the area. One of the scientists that run the Institute gives us a Pokemon as a reward, Castform, who changes form according to weather conditions in battle. Just after, May challenges us to yet another battle. Like before, I remember this fight being really hard, so I did go into this pretty worried, but I managed to beat her again with no casualties this time. Moving on to Fortree City, the design of this place is so cool. Everyone lives in a treehouse, it's practically like a kid's dream come true. I can vividly remember playing this as a kid and thinking like, yes, I'm gonna live here when I grow up, I'm gonna buy myself some property in Fortree City and live the treehouse life. I did try going into the gym, but an invisible force blocks the path, and this is repeated in a few different nearby areas. Steven shows up to be actually useful this time, though by giving us the Devon scope to reveal what was blocking the way, a Pokemon named Kecleon. After getting the 6th gym badge, it's time to move on to Lilly Cove, and this and the earliest Slayport City are contest central. Contest is something I'm personally not really interested in at all, but you need to get a Pokeblock case from the contest hall in order to get into this game's Safari Zone. Now, I wasn't sure how to include the Safari Zone in my Nuzlocke, so in the end I decided that each time it shows Safari Zone in the corner, that would count as a new area to be able to get a Pokemon in. Once I got a few more Pokemon, I moved on to Mount Pyre, which is the Lavender Town equivalent in Hoenn, to see what Team Magma and Aqua are up to. However, when we get to the top, it's too late. The red and blue orbs have been stolen by the two teams, which will result in dire consequences that will be seen later. After this, there isn't much in Lilly Cove aside from the abundance of Team Aqua grunts roaming around like they own the place, and the big mole, which May has taken hostage of until we battle her again. To progress the story, we need to get back to the Jagged Pass, since the player is in possession of the Magma Badge, which opens up their secret base. Now it's time to see what Team Magma's end goal is. The further the player gets in, the more grunts let slip of their plan. Maxie is attempting to revive the legendary Pokemon Groudon in order to fulfill their desires of further expanding the landmass. Now Groudon's awake, he fancies a trip out, so he leaves with Maxie chasing after him. However, Team Aqua are also causing issues in Slateport. They escape with a submarine and... fuck, I forgot about doing more of the Trickmaster house. Them stealing the sub opens up their base in Lilly Cove where the Master Ball is. Why did Team Aqua have the Master Ball? I don't know, I guess to catch Kyogre? We can't go after them until we have the HM for Dive, so it's off to Moss Deep City to take on the gym, which completely revolves around double battles, which makes complete sense since they're twins, and they might as well use one of the bigger mechanics they've introduced in this game. And to its credit, it is really refreshing. After getting the 7th gym badge, Team Magma are causing havoc again, this time for rocket fuel. Why? I honestly don't remember, but they're not having it, not allowed, you're not having the rocket fuel, you fucking weirdos. Update. I remembered why they want the rocket fuel. It was to try and blow up Mount Chimney again. What is it with these guys, and specifically Mount Chimney? It's weird. I think they just need to simmer down a bit. At least Team Aqua seem to kind of change their plans up a little bit. I think they just need to settle down. It is nice to be able to have a double battle with Steven to stop Magma though. It's a simple but effective way of further endearing the player to the character in my opinion. At this point in the game, it's pretty much only water types that are available in both trainer battles and wild Pokemon. To be fair, I do get it, it is in keeping with the harmony of balancing the land and the water. Kyogre and Groudon need to be in harmony with each other, so water has to have a similar amount of space compared to land. The themes of the game just wouldn't work otherwise, and I'm not implying that the game is worse because of too much water. But seeing the same few Pokemon for a good portion of the end game can get really boring to be fair, even worse in a Nuzlocke run when you're trying to find something unique to catch. But now we can find where Team Aqua are hiding. About fucking time. In a twist, we got to Kyogre first unlike last time, but we need to fight Archie regardless. Now I've given both of these guys a lot of slack for being completely psychotic, which to be fair they are, but at least they both realise just how badly they fucked up and try to correct what they've done. It's just a shame that it happens during the potential apocalypse that they've caused. The music, the random switching between scorching heat and intense rain, and it being included in any battles throughout this time, really makes the situation feel truly dire. Once the player finds Sotopolis City, a cutscene plays of Kyogre and Groudon fighting in the city, and it is admittedly really well presented, but I always feel so bad for Groudon. Like, Kyogre has this whole body of water to work with, and Groudon just has this little patch of land. Like, this fight really doesn't look like it's in the poor guy's favour. But we do have a lead on how to stop the pair from fighting. Wallace tells us that we need to go to the Sky Pillar. In Ruby and Sapphire, Wallace was the 8th gym leader. In this game he stepped down from that role, and if I recall correctly, the way to stop them was via a cave in Sotopolis to do with the orbs that you get earlier. In any case, going up to the top of the Sky Pillar awakens Rayquaza, who leaves immediately, and in an amazing cutscene, Rayquaza becomes the pissed off mum it knows it can be deep down, and tells the two to stop fighting and go home, ending the freakish weather and saving the Hoenn region. This kind of plotline can be a little bit taken for granted nowadays, considering the frequency of saving the world in modern Pokemon, but for the first time that they really tried this, it was pulled off fantastically well. Now all that's left to do in the main game is beat the last gym leader and take on the league. I've always really enjoyed the final gym puzzle. It's simple but just fun to me, I'm not sure why. However, I hate Jean. Again, not sure why. Is his name Jean? Juan? I don't know. I just despise him with a passion. I can't explain it. He's a weenie and I hope he chokes. After a truly grueling battle and the loss of Ponderer the Wobbuffet, we finally have all 8 gym badges. Next stop is Evergrand City, Victory Road and the Pokemon League. But before getting to Victory Road, I'll go over to my team just before starting it. My team is Bummel the Camerupt, Stomperino the Rhyhorn, Dos the Gyarados, Crisp the Grumpig, Goblin the Vileplume and Anot the Flygon. This particular theme for Victory Road, in my opinion, is the best in the entire franchise, no question. I haven't really talked about it, but this game in general just has a fantastic soundtrack. From this generation onwards, a lot of games tend to have a signature instrument that's present in most of the soundtrack. This one being the trumpet. Everyone knows the Hoenn trumpet, it's nothing short of iconic at this point. Quite early into Victory Road, Wally shows up to challenge us to another battle, with a mostly fully formed team this time around. In concept, I really like Wally as a rival, but he's painfully underused in these games in my opinion, since he only shows up a handful of times and we only get to actually battle him twice. His story from being a frail kid to a respectable trainer is really endearing though, and I would have loved to see this progression more. This is something that I do feel the remakes pull off a lot better in regards to him, but I'll save my extended thoughts on that for their own video, whenever that'll be. We do manage to beat him, but it does cost us Bummel, which bummels me out. Get it? There's not much else to talk about regarding Victory Road itself, but a cool little fun fact that I mentioned way earlier in the video. This school trainer is probably the last member of the Winstraight family mentioned near Morville. On the other side of Victory Road, Literally all of my original party died at some point along the way, including newcomer Anglo the Golbat, so it looks like I'll have to come up with a new team to take on the Elite Four with. Alright, it took a while, but I managed to gather a brand new team to take on the league. We now have Bab the Rhydon, Sumonda the Hairy Armor, Sharknado the Sharpedo, Kos the Banette, Blushingo the Walrein, and Sephiroth the Absol. On to the first battle against Sydney, who uses Dark-type Pokemon. He didn't really give me too much trouble, but sadly I did lose Sephiroth during this battle. Next up is Phoebe, who uses Ghost types. As a trainer, she really stands out compared to most Ghost type users since she's so positive and cheery. That and the really creepy Easter egg they put in the remake, if you know, you know. I did manage to beat her, but she really did a number on my party. I only have 3 Pokemon left to take on the rest of the league with at this point, and it just wasn't enough. I lost to Glacier, the Ice-type specialist's final Pokemon, in a Walrein vs Walrein matchup. It's annoying, but I still have enough Pokemon in the PC to make another party, so I've got no other choice to make a new team and take them on again. Okay, take 2. I've made a new team. I've upped their levels a bit more compared to last time. No further than Glacier's Walrein though, so hopefully this will do the trick. This time I have Gulliver the Pelipper, Repo the Dusclops, Dregling the Tentacruel, Anakin the Xatu, Striker the Donphan, and Jacko the Castform, and it worked. I did manage to beat Glacier as well as the next trainer Drake, who uses Dragon types, and in probably the most surprising twist for me anyway, Jacko was insanely useful in every single Elite Four battle. I didn't expect it, but he truly came out as an MVP, and the same goes for the battle against the champion, Wallace. Steven was the champion in Ruby and Sapphire, however Wallace has taken on this role, hence Hoenn being the 8th gym leader in this game. Sadly though, Jacko was killed by taking a Hyper Beam to the face from his Gyarados, but he went out with an absolute champ, taking out a couple of Wallace's Pokemon. With Repo the Dusclops, Dregling the Tentacruel, and Striker the Donphan left standing, the battle is over. The Hoenn Elite Four and champion have been beaten, and we have become the new champion. But that doesn't mean that the game is over, oh no no no. After the credits roll, you wake back up in your home in Little Root Town. Your dad is back home now and he gives you a ferry ticket, and a special program comes up on TV, and your mum asks if the Pokemon you saw was red or blue, meaning that you have a chance of coming across a legendary roaming Pokemon. Red is Latias and blue is Latios. I prefer the latter, however I pressed red on accident. Oh well, I don't dislike Latias either, to be fair, but it happens. Also, I did try to get footage of them for this video, but I just couldn't find them at all, sorry. Moving on, the Professor upgrades our Pokédex to the National Dex. Time to move on to some more of the side content available in this game now. Now, like I say, I'm going to be focusing on the side content, and because of this, I'm no longer going to be going by Nuzlocke rules for the purpose of this video, since I've beat the league already. First thing that I'm going to do is go to the Reggie side quest. In order to get this started, you need to go west of Pacifilog and dive into a specific spot. Then, use Dig at the end of the wall to open up another wall, with Wailord first in your party and Relicanth last. Pressing the northernmost spot will open the way for the Reggies to be accessed. These puzzles all revolve around a phrase in Braille that the player has to decode, and again, I have vivid memories of being a kid and having the official Emerald strategy guide that had translations of Braille to help you solve this mystery. Pokemon games have started to go back to more weird and involved methods of unlocking side content, although this is mainly saved for different evolutions rather than side quests in the game, but nothing beats this, man. I think this is just cool as fuck. Moving on to the Golems themselves, I'll start with Regirock. He can be found in the cave in Route 111, the desert. From the middle of the end of the room, walk left, left, down, down, and then use Rock Smash. This will then open up a wall and you can attempt to catch it. To get Regice, you need to go to Route 105, where you pass briefly in the boat at the very start of the game. All you need to do is run a lap of the cave. Simple. Registeel is hiding in the route between Fortree and Lilly Cove City. All you need to do is go in the middle of the cave and use the HM Flash. Also, side note, this isn't related to the games at all, but who remembers what these guys sound like in the anime? There's some crazy noises there, man. I don't know where they got the idea for those, but they're absolutely amazing. I love it. So I've caught the 3 legendary golems, now onto the next set of legendary Pokemon, Groudon and Kyogre. After becoming the champion, certain routes will have random instances of heavy rain or heavy drought. If you go to the Weather Institute, they can tell you exactly where the wacky weather is coming from, but you can also just come across the weather changes randomly. I happened to find a heavy drought area first on Route 116, which caused a new cave to appear, leading into a battle against and eventually the capture of Groudon. In Moss Deep City, going into Steven's house after becoming the champion, he leaves you a note for you with a gift, the Pokemon Beldum, his favourite Pokemon, which evolves into Metagross, which is one of my favourites from Hoenn. Right next to Moss Deep is a report of heavy rain, resulting in a new patch that the player can use Dive on, leading to the Marine Cave where Kyogre dwells, allowing the player to battle and catch it. And now that I've actually caught both Kyogre and Groudon, it's time to go back over to Sky Pillar to catch Rayquaza. You can actually go back to battle and try and catch it after it stops the other 2 legendaries from fighting, so you could use Rayquaza to fight the League if you wanted to, but I thought it seemed fitting to save him until I caught the other 2 first. Sky Pillar now has a gimmick of a crumbling floor that you have to use the Acro Bike to speed past, and it's okay, but further and more complex floors can get really fucking annoying to navigate around multiple times. Oh fuck, there's just 2 big things that I forgot about through this whole game. First is the Exp Share that you're given from the Devoncourt president. You let a Pokemon hold it and they can get XP for you even when they're not in battle. It's a really good way to help lower level Pokemon catch up with the rest of your team. In the Devon building is also where you can revive fossils, so I did and finally turned my Claw fossil into an Anorith. After doing this, I also finally used the ticket that Dad gave. You can also do a few battles on the ship, but you end up arriving in the Battle Frontier. The Battle Frontier is pretty much for people who are into competitive Pokemon, offering battles under certain conditions or employing specific mechanics, and this isn't my cup of tea personally, but it is an amazing feature objectively, and it offers a ton of depth and content for the post-game. Since there are numerous battle areas and Frontier Brains, which are the equivalent of gym leaders to take on, like I say, it's not for me, but I know this is a big draw for a ton of people and shouldn't be removed. Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. Again, I'm going to save my extended thoughts of the remakes, but the reasoning that they took the Battle Frontier out of them is so fucking stupid. Anyway, instead of doing any of the Battle Frontier content, I'm gonna fight a Sudowoodo you can find here because I love him. And I'm gonna catch a Smeagol in a Smeagol only cave that's there because why not? It's cool, I guess. Lastly, we've got to find a certain someone in Meteor Falls. Use Waterfall to get onto the next floor and let's go! The dungeon itself really gives me similar vibes to Cerulean Cave in terms of its layout. After some exploring, I find what I'm looking for. Steven. He serves as the big final challenge of Emerald, and my team to battle him is Striker the Donphan, Dregling the Tentacruel, Selena the Sableye, Repo the Dusclops, and a Metagross and Armaldo. Since I got these 2 after finishing my Nuzlocke, I didn't bother to give them nicknames. While Steven was the champion in Ruby and Sapphire, and by all means he was no pushover, he's been buffed considerably for this game, with all of his team being in the mid to late 70s. His Pokemon consist of Steel types and Fossil Pokemon, making for a challenging but overall well-balanced battle. Whilst it was a controversial and not as popular game as the previous 2 gens on release, I think despite its flaws, and there are flaws, the non-consensual phone calls on the Pokénav, the lack of the physical special split, and the lack of wild Pokemon variety in the ending routes, these games have aged beautifully. In fact, this gen onward is what I would consider true modern Pokemon, and this generation is the best starting point for fans trying to get into the series. Pokemon Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald truly did advance this franchise.